In Dungeons & Dragons, the archdevils are the rulers of the 9 hells of Beator, each controlling one of the 9 layers. There are also archdevils who have lost their positions and are still out there, plotting and scheming, and other archdevils who have these miscellaneous roles of authority, just not quite the rulers of their respective planes. So, archdevils, they're the most powerful of the devils in D&D, which are lawful evil fiends. They embody corruption, domination, manipulation, sinister bargains, conquest, and tyranny. The 9 hells and the archdevils draw heavily from Dante's Inferno, and from Judeo-Christian lore in general. Some aspects of the D&D content are close to these original sources of inspiration, and other aspects have been reimagined quite a bit. This makes me curious to see which archdevil is the most like the figure of Satan. I suppose this also means we're searching for the most evil of archdevils. Before we proceed, I should make an important point of distinction between Dungeons & Dragons and real-world theology or religious traditions. In D&D, good, evil, law, chaos, these are all independent forces. Good has its power, evil has its power, law has its power, chaos has its power. There are certain moments in which they can cross over a bit, or have a bit of nuance, or balance together in a way to form a sort of neutrality, but in their essences, good, evil, law, chaos, they are independent of each other. They are their own powers, their own forces. They're all part of this big cosmic interplay or cosmic struggle. Not only are they independent forces, but they are more or less equal in power. Now, I think you could make a pretty good argument that good does tend to prevail more than evil, but that's really going to depend upon the setting in which you're playing. Like in Ravenloft or in Dark Sun, evil seems to have the upper hand. This D&D cosmology is somewhat similar to Zoroastrianism. It also reminds us of the Elric novel series by Michael Moorcock. It also can remind us of Star Wars, that has the dark side and the light side of the Force. It also has some similarities with Taoism and with ancient polytheistic pantheons, though those are usually a bit more nuanced. The point is that the D&D cosmology is actually quite different than a Christian one. In Christian belief, there is no independent evil power. There's no other power that is separate from God or beyond God. Evil really is not a power unto itself, but rather a corruption of the good or a corruption of the natural. So what sorts of evil traits does the figure of Satan embody? Well, there's a lot that could be said here, but I'm going to focus on 3 big ones: pride, temptation, and despair. So what do these mean exactly? Pride is the cardinal sin. It is the root sin or the root evil from which all other sins or all other evils come. Now, this is not the root of all tragedies or the root of all misfortunes. It's the root of all evil acts. The corrupt intellect says, I can do anything that I want. I can shape reality according to my will and my whim. Now, this does not mean pride in the sense of being proud of a genuine accomplishment. If someone that you know or you yourself works hard and accomplishes something good, then naturally you are going to feel a sense of pride in the sense of you're proud of that or you want to celebrate that good thing. This is pride in the sense of self-absorption, the refusal of humility, this kind of rejection that there is anything greater beyond one's own self. Temptation, in the Satanic sense, means alluring or enticing people into committing evil acts or to distract them, lead them away from that which is virtuous. Evil acts cause unjust suffering or harm, abuse, murder, robbery, vandalism, lies, betrayals, and so forth. Harm done to people that do not deserve it. Temptation, thus, takes something that is wrong or harmful and makes it appear attractive. It makes it look like an alluring thing, or maybe even an apparent good thing. It provides this kind of short-term reward, this short-term pleasure, or a short-term escape from pain. But there's a drawback, because in the long term, there are consequences that are far worse. And often those long-term consequences are hidden. They're concealed whenever the temptation is being presented. Despair in the Satanic sense is causing others to lose hope. An overwhelming weakness and helplessness. This sort of eternal darkness that has no promise of a dawn. This bleak, unending gray that snuffs out all chance for living color to return. You've already acted out of pride and done evil. You've already given in to temptation, so, oh well, this is just your life now. You might as well give up. There's no way out of this. This is just your new reality. This is your prison. Just keep wallowing around in the muck. There's no way out of this hell. So these are the satanic traits that we are looking for as we go through the archdevils. Pride to control reality itself, temptation to lead others into hell, and despair to keep them trapped there without hope. We'll go through the archdevils according to the 9 layers of the Hells of Baator, according to the 5th edition lore. And we'll see what we can find out. We start with Zariel. She's at the first layer, known as Avernus. Her role is the ruler of Avernus and the leader of infernal armies. Her appearance is that of a fallen angel with a fierce and warlike demeanor. Her personality is aggressive, militant, and ruthless. Zariel is dedicated to the art of war and conquest. Her motivations are to lead the infernal armies in the blood war against demons and to prove her strength and leadership. She's associated with evil fighters and evil paladins. Zariel was once an angel, but she fell due to her obsession with the blood war and her desire to actively participate in battle. She was installed as the overseer of Avernus by Asmodeus himself, the ruler of all the 9 hells. She leads with a fiery temperament, iron discipline, zealous tactics, and a preference for aggressive recruitment of mortal souls. Avernus is nowadays a ruined wasteland, and it's under her control. There are citadels dotting the landscape, manned by her forces that are in perpetual conflict against the invading demons of the abyss. Next is Dispater, at the 2nd layer, known as Dis. He is the ruler of Dis, also known as the City of Iron. His appearance is a tall, iron-skinned devil with a calculating expression. His personality is paranoid, cunning, and extremely cautious. Dispater is a master of defense and fortification. His motivations are to protect his domain from any threat and to solidify his position through alliances and fortifications. He is associated with information brokers, conspirators, usurpers, and spies. Dispater is the lord of this hellish city of Dis, and he operates as the 9 hells' primary arms dealer. He oversees massive operations of mining, smelting, churning out weapons and armor that are used to combat the abyssal threat. He has deep paranoia. It leads him to live a reclusive life in his iron palace, filled with libraries, surrounded by spies and informants, and in order to further ensure his own safety, he crafts impenetrable adamantine armor. Mammon is who we find at the 3rd layer, known as Menaros. He is the ruler of Menaros, a swampy realm of avarice and greed. His appearance is a serpentine devil with a greedy, gluttonous appearance. His personality is greedy, unscrupulous, and manipulative. Mammon is obsessed with wealth and material gain. His motivations are to accumulate as much wealth as possible and to increase his power through bribery and corruption. He's associated with misers and wealthy hoarders. Mammon is a ruthless merchant, and he is a miser to the fullest and most awful sense of the word. He oversees the soul trade in what's known as the sinking city. Whenever a mortal dies and goes to hell, they first emerge out of the river Styx as a lemure, this pitiful, weak, kind of devil larva. If the mortal was associated with any particular archdevil, then that archdevil gets claim to that soul. If the mortal was not associated with any particular archdevil, then Mammon is probably the one who is going to grab up that soul. So in other words, he appropriates excess lemures for profit, and he maintains the soul marketplace with the minimal amount of expenditure possible. So this leads to Mnaros and the Sinking City being a fetid, wretched domain that is characterized by the cheapest construction possible, the flimsiest materials, the poorest of upkeeps. Mammon's obsession with wealth and efficiency drives him to seek profits in every single transaction that he's involved with. It makes him a dangerous entity to bargain with, and those who waste his time will always face his awful wrath. Belial and Fierna are next. They're both together in the fourth layer known as Phlegethos. They're the co-rulers of Phlegethos, a realm of fire and passion. Belial is a handsome devil with a charming demeanor, while Fierna is seductive and dangerously beautiful. Belial's personality is manipulative and suave, while Fierna is passionate and sometimes unpredictable. Their motivations are to maintain their grip on power and to manipulate each other and their rivals in order to stay on top. They're associated with charlatans, seducers, and demagogues. Fierna and Belial share a unique rulership over Phlegethos. This is the only layer that has a twin or a dual ruler. And it's marked by this mix of rivalry and collaboration, and this is all under Asmodeus' allowance. Fierna's charisma and manipulative skills contrast with Belial's administrative acumen. It creates a dynamic partnership overseeing this realm of fiery delights and judicial proceedings. The realm serves as the center of the Nine Hells legal system, resolving disputes and administering promotions or demotions through fiery rituals. Fierna's direct involvement in the soul trade involves emotional manipulation and the gathering of intelligence. She wields power and influence over mortals that are seeking positions of power or status. Next we come to Levistus, and he's found at the fifth layer known as Stygia. He rules there, and this is basically a frozen wasteland. There's a frozen ocean and there are massive icebergs. It's actually quite unlike the other layers of hell. Levistus' appearance is also quite unique. He's trapped in a block of ice. Within there, he appears as this tall, regal figure with a cold, calculating expression. His personality is cunning, vengeful, and patient. Levistus is known for his elaborate plans and his ruthless nature. His motivations are to free himself from his icy prison and exact revenge upon his enemies. But until such time, he devotes himself to corrupting mortals in the world, just constantly. He's associated with people who are in desperate, hopeless situations. Levistus is the lord of Stygia. Curiously, as I mentioned, he's trapped within a massive iceberg. This is a punishment from Asmodeus for some unknown offense. Levistus contacts mortals who are in desperate situations, who are in dire straits. He exploits their circumstances, offering an escape from their plight in exchange for their souls. And that's a terrible bargain in the long run, but there are no shortage of fools who take it. Levistus has an ongoing rivalry with the former ruler of Stygia, known as Geryon. This layer of hell really is unlike the others. It's not constructed, it's not developed in any way. It's a battle-torn, icy wilderness. There are devils, mercenaries can be found there. You can even find monsters and massive beasts, and they're all engaged in these constant skirmishes. Despite his imprisonment, Levistus manages to excel in fulfilling his quota of souls. All the archdevils have quotas of souls, except Asmodeus, who's administrating the whole thing. So Levistus excels beyond all of them because he's just in this ice. He's focusing his full attention on such matters, while Geryon, on the other hand, is out there scheming to supplant him and fighting and battling in a physical sense. But at the moment, Geryon is not able to directly affect Levistus due to this iceberg that he's sealed inside of. Before we plunge deeper into this tour of the layers of hell, I have an exciting announcement. My 5e book, Monstrous Heroes, is about to launch. The PDF version will be out here in just a week or two, and the hardcover version will come in just a couple months after that. Have you ever wanted to play a character who was fully a monster, not just a humanoid with a little bit of monstrous ancestry? Have you ever wanted to explore the more monstrous side of the game, while still using the familiar structure of a player character in D&D? Or are you a GM who wants options for advancing basic monsters into more dynamic enemies and NPCs? This incredible tome features 17 full race plus classes, monster classes, fiends, celestials, ogres, vampires, hags, constructs, aberrations, fae. All the creature types are in there, as well as backgrounds, feats, spells, magic items, a section of NPCs, and a bunch of world building, settings, and campaign plots that help connect these monstrous characters to your adventures. Check out the link down in the video description to get your copy on order. Proceeding down, we come to Glasya on the 6th layer known as Malbolge. Her role is the ruler of Malbolge, and she is the daughter of Asmodeus. Her appearance is a stunningly beautiful devil with an air of regal authority. Her personality is ambitious, cunning, and manipulative. She's known for her rebellious streak and her cunning plots. Her motivations are to prove herself as a powerful ruler and to expand her influence in the 9 hells. She's associated with thieves, masterminds, and corrupt nobles. Glasya is the rebellious daughter of Asmodeus. She governs Malbolge, and this is the prison layer of the 9 hells. Law-breaking devils are sent here, and there are also other captors that are imprisoned here, facing torments, facing tortures. Despite her status as warden and also as a notorious criminal, Glasya maintains a position of power by always avoiding conviction. She always slips out of everyone's grasp. She established the Hell's first organized crime syndicate. She manipulates legal loopholes. She's even made counterfeit currency to profit from the soul trade. Asmodeus has disciplined Glasya many times, in particular by making her an archdevil and limiting her influence to entice souls through contracts and legalities. He basically wants to ensure that her ambitions remain in check by giving her the responsibilities of running the prison layer of hell. Next is Baalzebul in the 7th layer called Meldomini. So he rules here in Meldomini. This is a place of decay and ruin. Baalzebul's appearance has changed quite a bit over time. Once upon a time, he was very handsome. Now he is a slug-like creature with a grotesque visage due to a curse. His personality is deceitful, paranoid, and treacherous. Baalzebul is known for his duplicity and his endless schemes. His motivations are to regain his former beauty and to increase his power and influence within the 9 hells. He is associated with people who have failed and seek redemption or seek a comeback. He also is associated with corrupt influencers. In the layered bureaucracy of the 9 hells, Baalzebul once wielded immense power over both Meldomini and Malbolge, until his ambition led him to conspire against Asmodeus. Despite his treachery being uncovered, Asmodeus still saw value in Baalzebul's intellect and his manipulative skills. So, he assigned him to oversee the Hell's bureaucracy on Meldomini. As a punishment for his deceit, Baalzebul was transformed into an awful slug-like creature. Nevertheless, he continues to focus on gathering souls from the material plane, exploiting the desperation of mortals who are seeking redemption or seeking revenge, while at the same time, he embeds insidious clauses into the contracts that he gives these mortals, and that often leads to their downfall. On the 8th layer of Cania, we find Mephistopheles. So he rules here in Cania. This is a realm of eternal ice. His appearance is a tall figure with a hyper-devilish appearance, often with some arcane implement in hand. His personality is ambitious, arrogant, and immensely intelligent. Mephistopheles is a master of arcane magic, always seeking greater power. His motivations are to overthrow Asmodeus and become the ruler of the 9 hells. He is associated with evil mages. Mephistopheles rules over the frigid realm of Cania, where he conducts arcane experiments from his icy citadel, Mephistar, and it's guarded by these punishing, brumal storms. His obsession with research and his disdain for distractions make him a formidable but reclusive figure to a degree. He's also known for disintegrating minions for just the slightest of transgressions. Despite his focus on experimentation, Mephistopheles also specializes in luring skilled wizards and sages into contracts with the Nine Hells, harvesting their souls for his studies while maintaining strict control over his minions through cleverly worded contracts. Throughout Cania, scattered libraries and repositories of arcane knowledge serve as testaments to Mephistopheles' insatiable thirst for understanding, while long, isolated citadels house sages who are patiently awaiting his attention to share their discoveries. Now we come to Asmodeus at the final and ninth layer of Hell Nessus. He is the supreme ruler of the Nine Hells and the most powerful of all archdevils. His appearance is a tall, handsome humanoid with red skin, horns, and wings. His personality is cunning, charismatic, and incredibly intelligent. Asmodeus is a master manipulator and politician, always scheming to expand his influence and his power. His motivations are to gain ultimate control over the cosmos, to manipulate mortals and deities alike to achieve his goals. He's associated with evil cultists. Asmodeus is the mastermind ruler of the Nine Hells. Long ago, he cunningly orchestrated a trial before Primus, the leader of the Modrons and the ruler of the clockwork nirvana of Mechanus. This is the most lawful plane in all of D&D. Asmodeus defended himself against accusations by Mount Celestia's angels. He justified his manipulation of mortals as necessary for maintaining order and for battling the chaotic evil onslaught of demons that threatened to destroy all the planes. Despite many angels' testimonies against Asmodeus, which detailed his endless sins, Primus refrained from issuing any definitive judgment. Instead, Primus mandated that Asmodeus had to carry the Ruby Rod, an artifact that ensures adherence to law. Asmodeus' ultimate ambition is to rule the cosmos. We could probably say the same thing for most of the other archdevils, but he's the farthest along that path. He views himself as the only entity capable of creating a utopian future free from chaos and free from demonic influence. Yeah, I'm sure that utopia would work out just fine. In addition to these main infernal rulers, there are a few other miscellaneous archdevils that we can find information on in 5e. There's Geryon, who is on the 5th layer of Stygia. His role is the former ruler of Stygia, but he's now a deposed archdevil. His appearance is very striking, very metal. He's a monstrous giant with a humanoid-like upper body, a serpent lower body, a scorpion stinger, and bat-like wings. His personality is deceptive, ambitious, and violent. Geryon is known for his cunning and his treachery, as well as his love for physical combat. His motivations are to reclaim his lost power and to exact vengeance upon those who deposed him. He's associated with brutes and evil warriors. Geryon engages in an enduring power struggle with Levistus over control of Stygia, with neither of them able to permanently secure dominance there. Now, as we know, Levistus is currently imprisoned in ice, and he's also protected by that ice, but Geryon keeps trying. He's so ferocious, he has such martial prowess, that he just remains locked in this battle for supremacy. Also, remember that on Stygia, there are other creatures and other devils and mercenaries there, so he's always fighting with them too. His focus on combat does ultimately hinder his ability to establish a stable hierarchy. It leads observers to speculate that maybe Asmodeus is orchestrating this conflict to test and maybe even replace both Levistus and Geryon with a more capable ruler. Back on the 1st layer of Avernus, we find Bael. His role is a powerful Duke of Hell. He commands legions in the Blood War. His appearance is a massive, bull-headed devil with bronze-colored hide and immense strength and ferocity. His personality is brutal, aggressive, and fiercely loyal to Asmodeus. Bael is known for his martial prowess and his battlefield tactics. His motivations are to prove himself in battle and to earn even greater favor from Asmodeus. He's associated with evil soldiers, cunning courtiers, and politicians. Duke Bael, as he's called, also known as the Bronze General, has risen in prominence in the Nine Hells for his tactical brilliance and his leadership on the battlefield. It's earned him quite a bit of acclaim from his masters. Despite his military prowess, Bael struggles with infernal politics. He often finds his ambitions hindered by more politically savvy rivals. That's why he's associated with courtiers and politicians, because he seeks to ally with them to shore up his weak area. He recruits mortals into his service, sparing their lives in exchange for their souls and their allegiance. He also cultivates a small following of very devoted, very passionate cult followers. They revere him so much that they even refer to him as the King of Hell. Next we have Hutijin. He's found on the 8th layer of Cania. His role is a cunning general in the infernal armies, serving under Mephistopheles. His appearance is a shrewd pit fiend with a knack for strategy and deception. His personality is clever, opportunistic, and resourceful. Hutijin excels in orchestrating ambushes and surprise attacks. His motivations are to rise to the ranks of Hell's hierarchy and secure a position of power for himself. He's associated most with pit fiends. So Mephistopheles is the ruler of Cania, and Hutijin is one of the dukes there. He's feared and respected quite a bit, particularly because he commands a force of pit fiends, one of the strongest kinds of devils. He ensures security for Mephistopheles, and he suppresses any potential challengers. Despite his power and his ability to challenge Cania's lord, Hutijin remains fiercely loyal to Mephistopheles. It's been suggested that Mephistopheles maintains some kind of magical domination over Hutijin. He's quite obscure outside the Nine Hells, but inside he's very well known. In fact, he's quite well known for his hatred of mortals, and anyone who dares summon him will be dealt with swiftly and viciously. Next we have Moloch, who previously dwelt on the 6th layer of Hell, Malbolge. His role is the former ruler of Malbolge, now a deposed archdevil. His appearance is a hulking, monstrous devil with a lightning-infused whip. His personality is tyrannical, brutal, and oppressive. Moloch ruled Malbolge with an iron fist before being overthrown. His motivations are to reclaim his lost throne and to assert his dominance over his rivals. He's associated with risk-takers and those of extreme ambition. Moloch was once an esteemed ruler of Malbolge in the Nine Hells, but he fell from so-called grace after being corrupted by his advisor, the night hag Malagard. This led to a failed attempt on his part to overthrow Asmodeus. Yeah, generally not a good idea. He got stripped of his power and relegated to the form of an imp. He managed to escape and to eventually reconstitute his proper form, but anytime he comes back to the Nine Hells, he gets relegated to the form of an imp. So he's desperately seeking to regain his former status, always scheming, always trying to make alliances. Usually he resides in Sigil, the city of gates between the planes. He often will bargain with Yugoloths for aid. Despite his diminished state, remnants of his influence linger in deep dungeons in the world, where idols dedicated to him continue to attract worshippers and treasure hunters. In fact, an idol of Moloch is that statue we see on the cover of that first player's handbook, that AD&D player's handbook from 1978. Now we come to Titivilus, who is found on the 2nd layer of Hell, Dis. His role is a devious archdevil known for his skill in deception and manipulation. His appearance is a sly and cunning devil with darkly exquisite clothing, a charming demeanor, and an air of sophistication. His personality is deceptive, manipulative, and persuasive. Titivilus excels in sowing discord and spreading lies. His motivations are to undermine the plans of his rivals and to increase his influence within the Nine Hells. He's associated with cunning politicians and eager adventurers. Titivilus is the cunning advisor to Dispater, the ruler of Dis. Titivilus has risen through the ranks of the infernal hierarchy by manipulating situations to his own advantage. He lacks the physical strength that most of the other archdevils possess, but he compensates for this with masterful negotiation skills and the ability to manipulate those around him. He's actually managed to gain quite a bit of Dispater's trust, and so Titivilus now wields significant power in Dis. He can even represent Dispater, speak on his behalf. And because of this, Titivilus is now going about orchestrating schemes that will not only maintain his position, but he also recruits outsiders to come in and carry out tasks that will further bolster and promote his influence. So there is some degree of Satan in all of these archdevils, but clearly more in some of them than in others. So we can start eliminating some right away. Zariel and Bael are more like evil military generals, like dark, epic soldiers. So we can cut them out. We could cut out Geryon along with them as well. He's sort of in that same camp, as he's more of a brute, evil monstrosity than anything else. Dispater is a paranoid recluse, so he's not the most satanic. Hutijin is a vicious pit fiend, but also he does accept his place underneath Mephistopheles and Asmodeus, and he's extremely loyal, so I wouldn't go with him either. Belial and Fierna are more about the politics and administration and scheming within the Nine Hells itself. Glasya is really rotten, but she's sort of a cross between a rebellious teenage daughter, a dominatrix, and a crime boss, so I can't really consider her the most satanic. Mammon is also super rotten, but really the vice or the sin that defines him the most is greed. Moloch is a betrayer, a would-be usurper, and a treacherous tyrant, so he gets pretty close, but not close enough. Plus, he's been defeated and thwarted and exiled for a very long time. Titivilus also comes sort of close, but he is more caught up in the scheming within the Nine Hells than anything else. So this leaves us with Levistus, Baalzebul, Mephistopheles, and Asmodeus as the top contenders. This is a tough choice. Levistus is trapped in ice, which reminds us of the portrayal of Satan in Dante's Inferno. He is condemned and punished, stuck within a frozen realm of denial and arrogant pride. He also fits the roles of despairmonger and tempter, as he devotes more time and attention than any other archdevil to contacting people who are in dire crises or doomed situations. It's hopeless. There's no way out of this, but I can offer you a way out. This existential exploitation is just so nefarious. Baalzebul also goes about leading souls to damnation in a similar way. He contacts those who have failed at their endeavors or who are in lowly situations. Maybe it's through their own faults, or maybe they are actually victims of some kind. He exploits the bitterness and the resentment that one can feel while in such a position, and he influences them with promises of power or tantalizing bargains. Mephistopheles is also Machiavellian in this way, offering the allure of arcane power and valuable knowledge. He strikes the notes of temptation and pride all the way, though I've never known him to be the worst of the despairmongers. Then Asmodeus, the ruler of the Nine Hells, the most prideful of all the devils, even going so far as to have Deus, or God, in his very name. He is the prince of sin, and his schemes are unending. The many temptations that he presents are rotten at their core. But again, he has never come across as the worst when it comes to bringing on despair. And we have seen time and time again throughout the editions that there is a strong argument to be made that Asmodeus does fill a kind of helpful role in the bigger picture, in that the forces of his diabolic realm keep the demons in check, which are generally regarded as the worst of all the fiends, as they want to annihilate all of existence, whereas the devils want societies, they want the planes to keep on existing, albeit so that they can keep spreading their malicious influence. But there's this sort of relationship that the devils have to the other beings in the cosmos. They're part of the drama of it all. They contribute to the story in their own nasty way. The demons, on the other hand, want the story to end. They want all of reality to be obliterated and swallowed by the abyss. This is a very tricky one. It might be helpful to rank the archdevils by the three main satanic traits that I've outlined. So if we look at pride, I'm going to go with Asmodeus, then Mephistopheles, then Levistus, then Baalzebul at the bottom. Asmodeus' position as the ruler of the nine hells and his desire for absolute power confirms his immense pride and arrogance. Mephistopheles is a very close second, and he would be just like Asmodeus if only he could pull off a takeover. Levistus is third, maintaining a prideful and even regal pose, even while trapped in ice. Baalzebul is last, having been brought down a peg due to his wretched curse. Then on to temptation. I'm going to go with Baalzebul, then Levistus, then Asmodeus, then Mephistopheles. Temptation is an extremely close call among all four of these. Baalzebul is considered the epitome of manipulation, deception, and enticement. He's like the epitome of Faustian bargains, and the archdevil who does the most tempting of mortals. Levistus comes in a close second. He too devotes most of his time to tempting mortals and working toward the harvesting of souls. After all, being sealed in an iceberg doesn't give him much of an opportunity to do much else. Asmodeus and Mephistopheles are also major tempters, but they're also caught up in so much other work. They have so many other kinds of things that they do, all these other duties and responsibilities and plots and activities. Then, on the despair point, I'm putting Levistus first, then Baalzebul, then Asmodeus, then Mephistopheles. Levistus is like the king of despair when it comes to archdevils. More than any other, he preys upon people in the most dismal and hopeless of situations, making them forget that there is always the chance to turn to the good. There is always hope for those who believe, like Darth Vader turning back to the light side at the very end of the original Star Wars trilogy, or the one thief who's crucified alongside Jesus, who genuinely admitted that he had done wrong and called out to Christ in faith and hope, and was saved spiritually there at the last moment. Baalzebul isn't too far behind, just to a somewhat lesser degree. Asmodeus and Mephistopheles, of course, spread despair as well and exploit people whenever they want to, but they just don't take it as far. Asmodeus seems like the obvious choice for the most satanic, but there's something that just doesn't fully convince me. The fact that he does have a somewhat decent argument for a sort of greater preservation of life and order, the fact that he so adamantly fights against demons, just doesn't fully feel like the figure of Satan. If I score these four archdevils based off those rankings I just did of pride, temptation, and despair, we get Levistus just barely at the top with 9 points, Asmodeus and Baalzebul tied for a close second at 8 points each, and Mephistopheles clearly last with 5 points. I knew there was something to that Dantean imagery of the Devil King trapped in ice. While you could argue the winner should be Asmodeus or maybe Baalzebul, and I think that is a pretty solid argument, I'm going with Levistus, the condemned one, the frozen one, the one who spends all his time influencing mortals not just to sin, but to give up all hope and all faith. Well, this was a very dark subject, but I hope that in facing it, we are now better equipped to handle such harsh realities. And I can personally attest, as someone who has struggled in the past with severe depression and hellish anxiety, just how grim and bleak and dead inside you can feel. The world seems gray and meaningless. Seems gray and meaningless. It seems like the future has no promise of any ray of light. But I can tell you that this despair really is nothing more than a distortion of the truth. The truth is that there is hope. All you have to do is choose it, seek it, Take one small step at a time. You can seek it out through traditional religion, or through a loving relationship, or through creative endeavors, such as role-playing games, or music, or writing. I promise you, it's not worth giving up. The world and all of us in it would be worse off if we were deprived of your potential goodness. There is a light that shines beyond the darkest of clouds, a dawn after the most horrible of nights. In fact, the very name that I go by, Esper, comes from the Spanish and Portuguese esperar, or esperanza, hope. Thank you all for watching, and a very special and big thank you to everyone who supports me over on Patreon. In particular, Lucas Mesmo, Adam Wood, Nick Thy Pirate King, Jared Primont, Locke, Nicholas A., Technicolor Shale, and Robert Brashini. Much appreciation to you guys. And if you yourself are interested in supporting my channel and getting some great exclusive rewards every month, check out the link to my Patreon down in the video description. And don't forget to check out the link to Monstrous Heroes. It is getting so close to launching, I can hear them pounding down the gates. Until we meet again, my brave companions, keep your sights set on the radiant dawn of hope. As always, may your adventures be many.